My perfect vision for classical music would be to see a rich tapestry of diversity reflected on the stage as well as in the audience.
The music that is being presented is as diverse as the people that perform it.
For this music to become a music for the people, for the community.
Where audiences and musicians and arts administrators feel welcome in more spaces.
It starts first with your imagination and your creativity, and from there, you can reach your dreams.
A rebranding or a reframing of the whole notion of classicism and classical music might be a good start.
Another way of connecting with people in order to build a better community.
Continue to create and perform new works while simultaneously using music from 150, 200 years ago to connect with audiences in new ways.
Be in this space and to contribute to this art form and to participate in classical music.
A rich tapestry of diversity on and off the stage. Music for the people, welcoming for all. Music created from our imaginations, connecting with audiences in new ways. I love our collective vision for classical music. Good afternoon, Sphinx family. My name is Joseph Conyers, and it is an honor to be able to address you all today to close out SphinxConnect 2020. My sincerest thanks to Sphinx for this opportunity. For those of you wondering, will there be an opportunity for questions? Yes, there will be. At the end, you'll see some mics in the aisle. You can come to the mics, or you can ask your questions via Slido, which is something we've gotten used to over the course of the conference. All right, let's jump right in. So what is my vision for the future of classical music? I realize you all might be curious. But before I answer, I want to make it clear that these are my views based on my life experiences. I know I'm in a safe space, so I will speak honestly and earnestly. Transitioning from a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed teenager into a seasoned professional musician presented an unexpected challenge. What I mean is that in recent years, if someone were to ask me, what's my vision for the music industry, or where might I see myself in that industry, my frank response would have been, I don't know. You see, sometimes, despite the many wonderful concerts I've had the privilege to perform all over the world, sometimes I would feel lost on the stage. Now, this wasn't because I didn't know where I was in the music. I've gotten better with that over time. It was because despite the fact that my artistic needs were being met at the highest level, there was still something missing. Purpose. The thought that during any given concert, there were hundreds, if not thousands of folks passing by the concert hall with no knowledge of the magic occurring inside irked me. I'm not just talking about the act of listening or experiencing the power of a moving performance, but I speak of the untapped potential of using this powerful force we have, music, as a tool, as a vehicle to connect with our communities, spark meaningful conversation, and institutionally serve as a resource to others. What truly is the impact of our large cultural institutions in cities across America if that impact isn't felt across the whole of those communities? What is our purpose? Simply to play great concerts? I'm reminded of the familiar philosophical question, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it, does it make a sound? Might we ask then, if an orchestra plays in the concert hall and no one is there to hear it, does it make a sound? If nothing occurs outside of our hallowed walls, if musical excellence is limited simply to one performance on any given night, what sound am I actually making in the world? Those were the questions that gave me pause. You see, for me, music is a gift. And while great concerts are moving, I feel our institutions can be doing more. I, at the very least, need it to be doing more. So I found myself asking really tough questions. Where in this industry was Joseph Conyers most valuable? On the stage or off of it? And further, why was the industry forcing me to make a choice? So in an effort to provide more clarity to my own vision and future of the industry, I reached a few conclusions. Now let me first start by saying, I love music to the innermost depths of my soul. Bach, Beethoven, and Brahms. Brahms is my favorite composer. Gospel, 1980s, 90s gospel. Music is my best friend. But my love of music alone fails to answer this existential question of purpose. To find that answer, I would have to examine my roots. Y'all, I was raised in Savannah, Georgia. My first introduction to music was via gospel in the Baptist church. Now, regardless of where one stands on the issue of religion, its pillars of moral tenets are universal and shared with many who do not belong to any faith. It is those values, however, that shaped me into the man that I am today. For example, what I learned in church was that I'm blessed. If it's only the ability to wake up in the morning and get started on my way, y'all, I'm blessed. If I have food on my table, clothes on my back, shoes on my feet, y'all, I am, yes. Back home, we didn't just sit and relish in our blessedness. No. In the richness of God's favor, we felt compelled to be a blessing to others. Therefore, if someone was in need, we found a way to help them. If someone was in trouble, we provided them with a place of refuge. We learned to give and not to expect anything back in return. Why? Because those were our beliefs as a community. And it is those values that allow me to stand before you here today on the shoulders of those who gave so that I might have. My success is not of my own doing. It is the evidence of the many who came and sacrificed before me. They, under the most unthinkable of circumstances, had a vision, not of what the future could be because of their circumstances, but what it should be because of their faith. And we're all here today because of the sacrifices they made for us. I am a product of those dreams. Don't believe me? Here I am, a man of parents who did actually lift themselves up by their bootstraps as a product of the segregated South. They spent all they had investing in their children so that I could have the career that I have today, so that I might be in the inaugural class of Sphinx competitors in 1998, connecting me to this great institution from its inception, so that I might be on the pilot taping of From the Top with Chris O'Reilly back in 1999, before From the Top was even From the Top, so that I might have the opportunity to study at the prestigious Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia and attend the Tanglewood Music Festival as a freshman in college, so that I could become a 2004 Sphinx laureate, winning second prize, almost. so that I could eventually win 4 orchestra jobs in 4 different orchestras and currently sit in a title position in one of the world's most famous. And if you haven't heard, so that I could become recently named to the double bass faculty of the Juilliard School. The whole of my community invested in me for my success. They gave so that I might have. I'm most assuredly blessed. Despite all of those accolades, none of these accomplishments that could be here today and gone tomorrow, define who I am as a person. Instead, it's a song we used to sing when I was growing up that most aptly describes my position on this matter. May the work I've done, y'all, speak for me. Not what orchestra I play in, neither what institutions I attended or teach, but may the work I've done speak for me. Joy does not come solely from having the gift of music. Joy comes from the ability, the blessing, to use that gift as a service to others. So what might this look like in our music industry? Am I suggesting that we stop playing concerts? Am I suggesting that musicians compromise their artistic product? Of course not. But what I might be suggesting is for us to envision what institutional service, institutional investments in the whole of our communities might actually look like. Now, if time would allow, I want to tell one quick story before I go. Is that all right, Abigail? All right, very good. It's a story based on a parable I learned as a child. Now, how many of you are familiar with the parable of the talents? For those of you unfamiliar, here's the Cliff Notes, Spark Notes version. There was a person of great abundance who gave their 3 employees great sums of money to watch over while they went away. Now, the Bible calls these large sums of money talents. Talents, y'all. Somebody say talents. Yes. Now, talents in this context is money. But I can't help but acknowledge the irony behind the use of the word for today's purpose, talents. Now, one of the 3 employees who received their talent thought he was smart. After being given this talent, thinking he was taking care of his boss's gift, he took that talent and he buried it in the ground. I don't want to lose what my boss gave me, he thought. His goal was to preserve the talent. I mean, it was a large sum of money, a tremendous responsibility. Some would say burying his talent was a wise move, the responsible approach. And looking at it practically, his actions make sense. Bury it and preserve it for the future. Might this be how we currently treat the classical music industry? Do we bury our potential in the ground in an effort to preserve it for our future? In a field that can be so focused on the individual, might we all be burying our talents in a form of self-preservation? After all, the world is big and scary. Taking any risk might threaten the gift that had been given to us. But then y'all, come on now, what about the 2 other employees? Or for those of you who know the story, you might know what happened to our entrepreneurial friends. What did they do with their talents? They said, look at what we have been given. Aren't we blessed? Might we take those blessings and look for ways to grow them to our boss's liking? And that's exactly what they did. They took their riches out into the world, made investments in their communities in hopes that those investments would reap dividends that could be brought back home. Sphinx family, I don't think y'all heard me. I said they took their talent, their blessing, their musical craft out into the world. They made investments in their communities with the hope that those investments would reap dividends that could be brought back to the storehouse. And do you know what happened to those investments? Their fortunes were returned to each of them twofold. Y'all, this is something they may not teach you in music school, but I'm here to tell you today that we have too much talent to just be putting it into the ground. We have too many blessings to keep them all to ourselves. Too many of our ancestors invested in us for us not to explore ways to invest in someone else. Now, when the boss finally returned from her very long journey, she was pleased with the two that utilized their talents for good. To the other, she was so upset that she took that employee's talent away and gave it to the other two, the two with a vision of what could be versus what shouldn't be. Sphinx family, don't bury your talent. With all that we have been blessed with, let us go out and invest those gifts into the whole of our communities and make our talent grow. Then, y'all, when we've made those investments, when we are sincere about those investments, when we take the time to listen to our communities through those investments, we can begin to build trust. When you build trust, then we can start substantive conversations on diversity, equity, and inclusion, making sure everyone is part of the conversation and has an equal seat at the table, giving shared access to our collective success. Then, finally, y'all, we can have a constructive conversation about that word excellence and what real excellence might actually look like. To that end, and y'all listen to me, to that end, diversity is not compromise. I'll say that again. Diversity is not compromise. Diversity is excellence. Diversity allows us to share the best of our personal experiences with each other, and diversity in the arts allows us to collectively share those experiences with the world. It is precisely how this extroverted Georgia singing boy from Savannah, Georgia, is able to play his bass just as passionately on stage with the Philadelphia Orchestra. Diversity is not compromise. Diversity is excellence. In envisioning our 21st century institutions, let's be sure to make them a welcoming space for musicians looking for purpose beyond performance. That's my vision for the industry, a place where one's desire to give back is as celebrated as their ability to play any given excerpt. My work as executive director of my nonprofit Project 440 and music director of the School District of Philadelphia's All-City Orchestra are my investments back into my community. These programs provide a clear vision of the purpose of my art form. I'm excited, y'all. I'm not nervous about our future, y'all. Because if we invest our talents now, the best days of our industry are not behind us, but lie glistening before us. Can't you see it? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Have a seat, have a seat. So thank you for allowing me to share that with you all today. It's been, being in the industry, it's been a fun ride. But I felt, as I said earlier, like this was a safe space so I could share that with all of you. And I hope you can take a bit of that with you, each of you, wherever you go, where your homes are, and figuring out how you can use your gift as a service for good. So any questions? Any questions that came up? Slido, maybe we'll start with? Yes.
How do you build armies of family and community volunteers to understand the value and enthusiastically support what you do?
I guess it's a Slido question, so I can ask specifically. What I do with Project 440 or my work in general, or, well, I guess I'll make something work with that. So that trust piece is really an important part of what I said earlier. In working in communities, that's one of the hardest things to develop. I mean, I went in Philadelphia, for example, with the best of intentions, not realizing that there was history there or there were things that I just didn't know. So I could have been coming in trying to change things. So if anything, I'm scaring everyone because I'm all excited about doing things. But with time, with patience, it's a lot of patience, you can start to build that coalition of trust first with your students, and then when your students begin to trust, then the parents normally follow along. Because if you lead by example and you're doing great work, good things in the community, other people normally want to follow that leadership. So it takes time, and it's a journey, and that's how, at least in Philadelphia, I've been able to build a coalition, if you will. Yes?
Hi. I loved your speech, but I want to know what's the future for, what do you have planned for the future for Project 440?
Okay. Plans for Project 440. So for those of you who don't know what Project 440 is, Project 440 is my nonprofit, and I always like to say that we're a music organization that does not teach music. We use music as a tool to teach entrepreneurship, leadership, and service, as well as college and career skills in high school students. It's an after-school program, and it started in Savannah, Georgia, with us doing completely different work. But when I came to Philadelphia, I realized there were all these kind of skills and things that the young people of Philadelphia didn't have or didn't know, and I wanted to provide them with those skills. That's one. Two, we are in this weird mindset, I think, as an industry, that any kid who plays an instrument is going to be a professional musician, when we all know the reality is that the vast majority of them will not. So instead of our approaches, instead of thinking of ways to get kids to play in an orchestra, we just want to get kids to use music as a tool to change their futures and uplift their communities. So our students do service projects. They learn what social entrepreneurship is. They learn how to assess the needs of a community. They learn what their leadership skills are and how important it is to build a team to help them in their work. After that, they're sent out in the community and they begin their own projects. Was that Chloe? I actually couldn't. That was Chloe. Chloe Cooper actually is a Project 440 graduate. And and Claire Casanova. I think they're interested in knowing what we're wanting to do because they have been great examples of the work we want our young people to do. They have since started their own nonprofit organization with the help of starting it at Project 440 called Generation Music. They are fiscally sponsored. They have their own board. They do their own fundraisers, always asking me for money on Instagram. But they saw a need that there were not enough young people of color interested in classical music or orchestral instruments at all. And as they continued their work, they saw that there was kind of a void in general with a lot of young people in the district. So what they do is they created their own curriculum, and they visit elementary and middle schools across Philadelphia, introducing kids to the musical instruments of the orchestra. These are the programs. Yes, let's give them a hand for that. Our work is about empowering young people to realize, many of them, when I go into a lot of schools and talk to young people to tell them about the program, a lot of them are like, well, how can I do that? Or what they realize is they don't have the they feel they don't have the agency to make that next step. And we say, yes, you can, and here are the tools to do that. So to answer your question, our goal is to spread the program. We've been working in Philadelphia. We have been getting all of our tools and curriculum assessed. We're building out our team. We're trying to grow the program in Philadelphia with the idea that with all this data and with all this knowledge, going to different communities and uplifting other young folks in communities across the country. So that is what we hope to do. So we can have more generation musics. Yes. Another question, yes.
Hey, it's me.
Hey,
so
yes.
another one. So as one of the students that have grown up with you, we were there from the beginning.
Yes.
I just want to know, like, why didn't you give up on us? Like, we were very bad. We were very bad. I don't know if y'all know, Philadelphia School District is no joke. So I know that obviously you gave up, you like have reasons for staying with us, but like you really pushed for us, and I feel that as one of your students. And I want to know, what advice can you give to other educators to make sure that you do, that everyone gets the same privilege that I have and that my friends have?
Thank you. Two things. I think one, my mom was an educator, is an educator. She taught me in Sunday school and taught in the public school system of Savannah for over 30 years. And the reason I can't ever give up is for this moment now. Because you literally, you're trying to break me down up here in front of all these people. Because of that. Regardless of where young people come from, sometimes if you can just show them the path, lead by example, and don't give up hope, even when it looks like all hope is lost, because there are some reasons sometimes in Philadelphia, but because we know that we can make a difference in someone's life. And as I get up a little long in the tooth, as they say, that's one of the most important things that I feel like I can do as a person on this planet. I know I can't go and save the whole world, but how can I make a difference in somebody's life? And that always gives me hope. So, yeah. Yes.
Reflecting back from your time from the inception of
Yes.
this organization to now, what has made this impactful, amazing organization so special to you?
For many of the reasons I've already mentioned, to be honest, is that change, that and that light we can put in young people's eyes. The leading by example. Y'all, being a leader is hard. And as I said, even in my remarks, that sometimes the institutions will make it sometimes even harder to do the work that you actually want to do. And it's just knowing, again, I said it also in my remarks, knowing how hard someone worked for me to be where I am today, I can't help myself. Maybe that's the easiest answer. I really can't help myself. The cliche is say, pay it forward, but really use my gifts to help someone else. So that's how we've done the work, and that's why I've continued the work and assembled a team to help me with that work. Because what any great leader will tell you is you must be surrounded by other great people to help you do these things. And assembling the team and the right people who believe in it just as much as you do is also really, really crucial and helpful. Yeah. Yes. Oh, yes.
That was loud. My name is Erica, and I'm a vocal coach and choir teacher and theater teacher, Oakland, California. And yay, hometown. We deal with kids with a lot of behaviors and things like that,
Yes.
and like who are coming up on hard times. And I understand that demographic because I grew up in it myself. And that's not really the issue that I'm experiencing, because the kids are excited about the art. I want to know, you assembled a team that can help support you in the things that you want to do. So my other question to ask is, what we've been dealing with a lot, especially in the after-school programs, is the lack of engagement of parents and them not taking what we're trying to do with their children seriously. They're not believing in their children's abilities. They'll come and pick them up early when they know they're supposed to be here for rehearsal because they have a performance. Some of them don't even bring them to the performance when they know there's supposed to be a performance. What are the strategies that you've used in the past and present to be able to get that parent engagement?
I have two answers for you. Great question. Thank you.
Yeah.
So some of you might find this weird and it could be a little controversial, but one way we make an investment in our students so they make an investment back in us is that we pay them to be in our programs. They're actually paid a wage. They're paid for doing their homework, and they're paid for showing up and participating in class. In that way, they learn that if someone invests in something, to be able to give that back. And generally, particularly with the payment, the parents understand. So that's one. The second thing I want to bring up is you should have a conversation with the folks who are in all the different cohorts with the Mellon Foundation and these initiatives that are going on across the country. Project 440 is part of one of them. The PMA, Philadelphia Music Alliance for Youth. The goal of these institutions is to provide a pathway or pipeline for students of color to one day end up to be professional musicians. And we just had a meeting just now talking about the very subject that you're speaking with. It is complex, but is not impossible to take over. So in the interest of time, I only have time for one more question. In the interest of time, we can connect afterwards, but PMA and the other Bean, help me out, Chicago Pathways, these are all programs doing that work. Yes. I have time for one question, a quick question.
Okay. My name is Danielle. I'm also from Oakland, California. But my question is, I think one of the reasons why your speech is so powerful is that you're operating from a mentality that's very much encouraging and believing in the students as they are when they arrive.
Right.
And I think so often when people go into communities, it's very much with a deficit mentality. For instance, assuming that they don't know anything about music because they haven't had lessons.
Right.
Even though you growing up in church and me growing up in church, I knew a whole lot about music. Right. And so I think about, do you ever consciously, when you have the students coming in, thinking about the skills and the tools that they're already arriving with?
Sure.
And do you do that in a process with your team?
That is all part of our curriculum. So we want to uplift and empower in the way that sometimes, particularly organizational skills, money management, these things that one needs in the business world and in business life. A lot of these students have done just because of work that they've done, whether it was at their church in their own community. And what we do is try to use that and build on that. Real quick story. I've told this story a few times, but we were in southern Georgia, in an impoverished part of the South, and we were driving by this home. This is when I was young, and my mother made the fleeting comment there were these kids playing on a porch, and they obviously did not have a lot of means. And my mother made the comment, among one of these kids could be a genius, an Einstein or a Mozart, and no one would ever know. And that haunted me, because the fact that I know you're just using the language, but the deficit in that way, the potential is there. It's right there. They just need to have the opportunity and the guidance to be able to have it. I mean, that's the only reason I'm here today. It really is because my parents guided me in that way. I had a community around me, not unlike these pipelines that are being created here and around the country. So, I do feel there's potential in every child. Yes. And on that note, it gives me great pleasure, and I'm around, and then I think that my socials were up, so y'all can always hit me up with more questions. But it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Eugene Rodgers, of the music director and founder of Sphinx's Exigence. Thank you.
Testing. Wasn't he fabulous? Let's give him another round of applause. My brother, fantastic. The kernel that reflect on what you share with us. I think of vision and hope. That's what we have to keep supporting our youth and keep moving forward. And this is really what Exigence, the songs that we'll perform for you tonight. Exigence, in case you don't know about the group, started 3 years ago right here at Sphinx. Often Aaron and I partnered together to create the first Black and Latinx professional choral ensemble. And we've had a great ride in our 3 years. We specialize in all sorts of repertoire, but mainly highlighting music by women and people of color. And this piece that you're going to hear us sing for you tonight is a vision unfolding. I'm going to ask Exigence to come forward while I speak about this. Derek Spiva, how many of you know of Derek Spiva? So, absolutely. LA-based composer. If you don't know of him, check him out. He's fantastic. We commissioned him to write this piece for us for our inauguration. And Derek comes from a background where he studied, obviously, traditional classical music, also West African and Indian, Northern Indian repertoire. And so this piece, he actually wanted to expand, if you will, the concert classical sound of choral music by writing this piece, Vision Unfolding. And you'll hear sort of a tapestry of colors using all of those styles in this piece. Equanimity, dignity, liberty is what are the themes that you'll hear throughout this, a vision unfolding of all of us, hopefully eventually finding where we have the better, diverse, inclusive environment. This is a vision unfolding, Derek Spiva.
Have you seen mirror focus? Running, rolling, riding over skin. Turning, looking back, seeing truth ready. Take it back, run. See how we can be a fountain. Take a seat, see us fighting back. So, see us fighting back. Not getting love back. So, they saw us fighting back. To reach a love that means we're never going back. Have you seen mirror focus? Running, rolling, riding over skin. Turning, looking back, seeing truth ready. Take it back, run. See how we can be a fountain. Take a seat, see us fighting back. So, see us fighting back. Not getting love back, so they saw us fighting back. To reach a love that means we're never going back. How many dreamt this dream? How many dreamt this dream? How many dreamt this dream? Oh, how many dreamt this dream? Are we brave, free, be brave, free? Dignity, destination, secretly, unfolding liberty, vision, liberty, unfolding dignity, destination, secretly, unfolding liberty, vision, liberty, unfolding dignity, destination, secretly, unfolding focus, vision, liberty, unfolding dignity, destination, secretly, unfolding looking, vision, liberty, unfolding ready. Take it back, we can be free, we can be run, see, we can be free, we can be how high, we can be free, we can be ready, we can be free, we can be ready, we can be back, we can be free, we can be run, we can be free, we can be free, we can be how high, we can be free, we can be ready, to bring the light, 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 be brave, to bring the light, to bring the light, be brave, to bring the light, to bring the light, be brave, to bring the light, to bring the light, be brave, to bring the light, to bring the light, keep on shining, bright, keep shining, keep on shining, bright, keep shining, keep on shining, bright, keep bright, show, bright, show, bright, show. Have you seen mirror focus? Running, rolling, riding over skin, turning, looking back, seeing truth ready. Take it back, run. See how we can be a fountain. Take a seat, see us fighting back. So, see us fighting back. To reach a love back. So, they saw us fighting back. To reach a love that means we're never going back. Vision unfolding a dream to reach empathy. Vision unfolding a dream, grace within our reach.
See, have you seen?
A vision unfolding a dream to reach empathy.
See, have you seen?
A vision unfolding a
See, have you seen?
dream, grace within our reach.
See, have you seen? Dignity, destiny, synchrony, freedom, liberty, vision, liberty, unfading, dignity, destiny, synchrony, unfading, liberty, vision, liberty, unfading, dignity, destiny, synchrony, unfading, liberty, vision, liberty, unfading, dignity, destiny, synchrony, freedom, liberty, freedom, liberty, freedom, keep on show the potential. Show it, unhidden, beaming, unhidden, beaming, keep on show the potential. Show it, unhidden, 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 beaming, 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 a vision unfolding, 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 vision ready, vision ready, vision ready, vision ready, vision ready, vision ready, can you see?
We're gonna take you way back. How many of you have enjoyed this conference? We could not end this conference without celebrating, because we don't know what's gonna happen in 2020, but one thing we will keep is hope and vision. This song speaks a little bit about that. Levante, come on.
Just the other day, some friends came to me. They said, Vante, how can you smile when your world is crumbling down? I said, here's my secret. When I want to cry, I just take a look around and I see that I'm getting by, and I hold on. Change is coming.
A little bit of the song so you can join in with us. Some of you already know it, but just in case you don't, this is a little bit of taste. Levante, lead us. Just repeat after us, and here you go. La la.